So I want to say a big thank you for inviting me here to answer the question, is Ghana winning the fight against corruption? Surely you knew that would be a favorite topic of mine, so I think that's why you chose it. But when I saw the topic, the first thing which came to mind was that phrase in our Lord's Prayer, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from every evil. I said, these guys, they want to create temptation for me. But before I get carried away with the topic of today, allow me also to extend my appreciation to Mr. Manasseh Azuri Awuni, who delivered the previous lecture. I am very grateful. And kindly indulge me to quote from two sources to justify why I feel we are all obliged, and I am particularly obliged to answer that question, is Ghana winning the fight against corruption? Being a Christian and a Catholic, Scripture tells me that take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. Ephesians 5:11. In Catholic, we normally don't show the source, but I know some of you are non-Catholics. You want to see where it is. We believe the Bible in its entirety. So we just say, this is what Scripture says. But I also have a quotation from one of the archbishops who I respect very much. He is the Venerable Archbishop Felton Shen. He said, and I think that applies to us today, as we are here. He said, the refusal to take sides on great moral issues is itself a decision. Sounds here for me, I'm not part of it. No, you have taken a side. It's a decision you have taken. He said, it is a silent acquiescence to evil. Acquiescence means acceptance. You are silently accepting evil. And the tragedy of our time is that those who still believe in honesty lack fire and conviction, whilst those who believe in dishonesty are full of passionate conviction. Is that not the case? Some break our eardrums with a lot of lies and noise every day, and we look on. It was very funny. This morning I was looking at watching a video or a clip where a gentleman was accusing people of grabbing state lands, and someone also took him on and said, you Tumu, this building, this one, you were a deputy minister, you were this, you grab this, and grab this, and say, oh my God. So that is the society we have brought ourselves into. Some of the people have decided to see no evil and hear no evil of what is happening today. But before answering the question, if you may allow me, the question I would like to ask is, why should we even fight corruption? Is it necessary to fight corruption? And after that, I'll come to your question. So I said myself additional questions that I want to answer. Those who are familiar with our Constitution, Clause 8 of Article 35 of our 92 Constitution stipulates that the state shall take measures to eliminate corrupt practices and abuse of offices. It is one of the directive principles of state policy, which is supposed to guide all of us, the president, the judiciary, everybody. And many times when I'm in office, when I express my views about what the law says, some will tell you that, but you are not the court. It is the Supreme Court who is supposed to interpret the Constitution. I say, you are lying. Which school did you attend? Read Article 34 of the Constitution. It enjoins all of us, Ghanaians, to interpret and apply the Constitution. It's not only the court. The court's mandate comes under Clause 2, only when we disagree with the interpretation. So please, interpret it yourself. Interpret it and apply it. The Constitution enjoins the president, everybody, to interpret and apply the Constitution and the laws of Ghana using what is within the directive principles of state policy. So let no one tell you that because you are not a lawyer or a judge, you don't interpret the Constitution. I disagree with that. And interestingly, at times I run into judges who are my friends, and when they speak, I say, well, you are entitled to your opinion as long as you are not a court of competent jurisdiction. You are just a friend at the moment. I don't respect that position. Because I also have my position as far as that is concerned. We have to fight corruption because we cannot expect Ghana to undergo the rapid transformation that we need and grow as a respectable country if we allow corruption to continue. We have to bring it to the barest minimum and, if possible, eradicate it as required by the Constitution. Our own Dr. Kofi Annan, I hope you all know him, once said, corruption disproportionately harms the poor by diverting funds intended for development, undermining the government's ability to provide basic services, perpetuating inequality and injustice, and discouraging foreign and local investments. And another Ghanaian, Dr. Yabua Konedu, also stated, and I like what he said, although the subject of corruption may seem exhausted, it seems we have exhausted it, isn't it? Its unique role demands untiring efforts to eradicate it once and for all. So even though we have been talking about corruption, the unique role it plays in our society requires that we should go ahead and fight and fight and fight. Finally, in my view, we must fight corruption because if we fail, posterity will not be kind to us. It is clear that the youth are unemployed and angry today. Some of them are here. Are you not? But you are not angry enough. That's the problem. Though you are angry, but you are not angry enough. And it is said that a hungry lion is an angry lion. I think we must take a cue from Kenya and also take preemptive actions. If only President William Ruto would have been minded to do the things he's doing today, last year, or even early this year, I think he would have been a hero. But now, even if he cuts his throat, people will not appreciate it. Question we want to ask is, the other African leaders, including our own president, has he taken any cue out of it? Or we've forgotten the account proverb that says when your colleague's beard, that's why I don't have beard, yeah? So when your colleague's beard is burning, you fetch water and put by yours. Is that not it? But today, I don't think that is going down. It would have been so heartwarming for us to wake up and hear from the president that given the heat in the country and what I've heard from somewhere else, I've reduced my cabinet or my ministers to 40. The rest are going home. And my ministers, there are a lot of complaints about corruption and abuses of office. All of you, bring me a status update on how you have resolved issues in your ministry. Once there's any allegation in your ministry, bring me a status update. Especially the Auditor General's report. Take it and tell me how you have resolved the issues. You have 2 months to pass these exams. After the 2 months, if you are not able to do that, you go home also. It would have been refreshing to say that, look, the grabbing has stopped. Henceforth, we are not going to grab state assets the way it is going. So those who have grabbed will bring it from my government and from previous governments. I'm collecting the state properties for you. And of course, also, we are going to fill the hole that they have dug over there and refund the money. I hope you know the pit I'm talking about. The award-winning pit, the most expensive pit in the world and in human history, is in Ghana. It's for tourism. Actually, I'm sure we should promote it, that people should come and see the most expensive, yes, dug in human history. So if President start today to do some of those things, I think it will help to calm nerves so that everybody will say, well, is left with about 6 or 5 months to go. But I keep telling people that at times in football match, the goals that you scored last minute are even sweeter than the earlier ones. Is that not it? Especially during the extra time. When we look at it and it's left just some few minutes or a minute to go and the ball enters. Is that not it? Yeah. So it is never too late. Those who have the ears of the president, it is not too late to repent and start doing the right thing. Is Ghana winning the fight against corruption? And interestingly, those who sent me the topic, they sent a concept note. And in the concept note, they stated that Ghana loses an estimated $3 billion US, converted at a rate of 15 Ghana cedi to a dollar means we are losing about 45 billion Ghana cedis annually to corruption. And they added, despite the various institutional and legal frameworks put in place to combat corruption, the situation seems to be worsening. And I said, thank you. So you have answered the question. So I know where you want me to go. Yes, I would like to state emphatically that institutional and legal frameworks are not enough to effectively combat corruption. And that it is the state, and that is the state in which we have found ourselves here in Ghana. After establishing the institutions, we must give them the oxygen to breathe. We must give them the oxygen to breathe. Let me be very honest with you. I was in office as Auditor General when the Office of the Special Prosecutor Bill was put together, and I was not enthused at all about it. Because from my point of view, I was like, building several institutions also deny us the benefit of the consolidated fund because of the overhead that goes with it. So look at whose mandate or whose duty it is and find out what is wrong with him. Maybe he himself is wrong, so you push him aside. But if he is not wrong, you support him. If it is in terms of mandate, we can change the law. If it is in terms of funding, we do that. But the bill was passed. And I said to myself, well, even though in principle I don't support it, if this is what it will take for us to win the war against corruption, why not? So those of you who followed events, I was working closely with Honorable Martin Amidou. We actually held even a press conference to say that there's going to be a joint exercise. So as I exercise the mandate of disallowance and surcharge, he takes you on and prosecutes you. So that we make corruption very unattractive. Unfortunately, he bowed out of office, out of pressure, and we are all aware of what happened. Then comes in the young man, Kisie Jabe. And the young man is facing troubles and challenges like nobody's business. So I said, the one who put him there, don't you know that you have to protect this guy? You should be calling people and say, shut up, back off, let him do his work. So please, government officials and people in government, leave the special prosecutor alone. He seems to be the only person serious about corruption today from my point of view. So let's give him the oxygen for him to be able to do his work. Not too long ago, we heard that there was a petition for his removal from office. Then later on, we heard that, oh, the petitioner said he didn't petition. And there was a lot of doubt. Then finally, I heard again that the Chief Justice has thrown it out for want of establishing a prima facie case. I say, what is all this? If the gentleman has to wake up every morning thinking about his own safety and being at office, how effective do you think he could be? So let us support him, especially you, the press. Tell people to back off. They should allow him to do his work because the need to fight corruption, as far as I'm concerned, is very paramount and very important. Just as we are aiming at fighting corruption, ladies and gentlemen, let me draw your attention to another evil which is very close to corruption, and at times they reinforce each other, which is bedeviling our country. What is referred to in the literature of public financial management in South Africa as fruitless and wasteful expenditure. An expenditure which doesn't bear fruit. Fruitless and wasteful spending. Government spend money as if they are crazy. You ask yourself, why will you do this? Did you see the audit report which says that close to 12 million has been paid for a dam which never was? Did you see the report which said that about, is it $2 million or $3 million have been paid for SkyTrain? Where is it? Where is it passing in Accra? A whole lot of damning things are coming, and it seems it is okay. And what disturbs me is the fact that Ghana is a country which, in my considered opinion, has moved beyond taxation to robbery of the people. Instead of taxing people, we are now robbing people. Whatever money Ghana government can squeeze out of you, they will squeeze it out of you and see the use to which they put these monies. And I ask, why are my people not angry enough when you see this type of things happening? So corruption is so interesting or so important that I ask myself, if really this country is losing 45 billion Ghana cedis to corruption on annual basis, shouldn't government prioritize the fight against corruption, against any other thing? Should we be borrowing money only to use it on corruption or lose it on corruption? So the Honorable Minister of Finance will be presenting his media financial statement or budget. And I want to let him know that his fiscal consolidation is completely useless if he and his government will not pay attention to corruption. Because whatever gains that he thinks he would make out of the fiscal consolidation will not bring anything good. It will only go to align people's pockets. Several presidential aspirants are giving us a lot of hope and encouragement. My word to them is that if they will not pay special attention to corruption, then they are wasting our time. Because look, it doesn't make sense to say, I'm trying to fill this bucket which is leaking so much by pouring so much water into it, instead of stopping the leakage. That is what we are doing in Ghana. Actually, we are pouring water into a basket, not bucket. So it doesn't matter the extent to which we borrow. It doesn't matter the extent to which we raise taxes. We will not see the output because we are pouring it into what? Basket. Not leaking basket. This is a basket. A basket doesn't leak anymore. It doesn't contain water. You get me? So we may have to prioritize this. And please, when they come campaigning, they should not just tell you we are going to fight corruption. Let us ask, how are you fighting the corruption? What are the key indicators we can use to judge you? Someone, the lady Nana, what's the name? Nanaya said, people who were driving cheaper vehicles are now used to very expensive vehicles. Some of them never even drove a vehicle. Some of them barely had spare trousers before coming to politics. And you see what they are doing or they are owning today. It's mind-boggling. And they don't feel accountable to the people. I remember the day I was very emotional when I was Auditor General. That day, it never escapes me. When I received an audit report, and I was reading the report, and that report, which I issued, said, out of the gate fund, monies that were set aside as scholarship for gifted but needy students to be educated in Ghana. Listen, the law says in Ghana. That money was taken by our members of parliament, the elite, etc., to go abroad, denying the future of our children. I couldn't believe it. I was so emotional. At a point in time, I became normal again. I called the team leader. Are you sure that this is correct? He said, yes. I said, okay, fine. Bring the audit file. There's always a file. People think auditors, please forgive me, they think we are like journalists. No. Auditors, whenever they are talking, they have the evidence. So can you bring the audit file? Then they brought the file. I perused it. And I said, you are right. But is this how wicked we can be? After stealing all this, the small portion for gifted but needy students, their education in Ghana has been taken over. Some of the smartest one, among them said, oh, but you remember there's another clause which says that the minister, in conjunction with the board, can also decide that portion of the money, gate fund, can be used for other activities. So that is what we went under, not the scholarship. Forgetting that the scholarship has got what we call a disbursement formula. And that policy is not in the formula. The only policy which is in the formula, which they used, was the scholarship. And they've also forgotten that their application letters were talking about scholarship. So if we have a society like this, where members of parliament, where politicians can take money or bread out of the mouth of the unborn children, then I think we have a problem. And I believe some of you may also be asking yourself or thinking the way I am thinking, so why are we not winning the fight against corruption? Several reasons, but the most important one to me is because there are no consequences for misbehavior in Ghana. Tell me, if the police say, from today going, the road is free. If you see red light, if you like, stop. If you like, go. What do you think will happen? We'll be running into each other, is that not it? But as I was coming, I saw almost at every joint or distance, there were police presence to ensure what? Law and order. And I'm very sure if you misbehave, almost they have one or two motorbikes there, they will give you a chase. Is that not the case? So we know there's going to be a consequence or something will happen if you misbehave. So there's discipline on our roads. But what about corruption? Especially if you are a member of the ruling government. You can get away with murder easily. Nothing happens. Oh, did you say, Are you not aware that about 7 or 8 people were killed during our election, the 2020 election? What has happened? Didn't we see soldier men kneeling down, aiming and shooting human beings? What has happened? So people are getting away with murder. But I say and I warn that when you push the people to the wall, the animal in them will come out. So don't take Ghanaians for granted. If you think people are so cool, oh, Ghanaians are calm, oh, Ghanaians are not like that, God-fearing. Go to Kenya, they have more God-fearing people there than us. So don't let us get there. The most important message I am giving to the leadership of the country is that when you see the temperature going up, let's cool it down. Let us not get there. So let's preempt the situation by doing what the people have been calling for. Very interesting story with you. It was shared with me by one Dr. Babalola, is the Pro-Vice Chancellor for the University of Lagos. He said, a young man excelled in chemistry during one of their graduations, and he had the highest scores. So the professor called him and said, "Gentlemen, congratulations. I'll give you scholarship for you to go and do your master's." So he was given scholarship, and he did his master's. Professor had forgotten about the young guy. About 2 years down the line, he was walking, and the young guy came and said, "Prof, good morning." He said, "Good morning. I'm the one you gave the scholarship to. Thank you, I've finished." "And did you make good grades?" He said, "Yes, I made this. He said, "Oh, fantastic. I'll sponsor you for your PhD." And the young man said, "No." He said, "You do PhD?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Why?" He said, "Prof, I have a close friend of mine. We were in secondary school together. He didn't even go to the university. He is the chair of the local council or government in my place. He drives beautiful cars, has a wife, has houses, and a lot of money. All I have is paper." So the professor was definitely disappointed, asked, "So what are you going to do now?" He said, "I'm going to politics." Funny as it sounds, it seems that is the order of the day. Today in Ghana, you join politics within 4 years and you are filthy rich. It's only when you die that we know that you were even willing away some of the state assets to your families. And these days we are told some have millions of dollars in their accounts. What kind of public servants are these? I've been wondering, who coined that word public servant? What's the meaning of public servant? You mean these guys are servants of the public? Or they are enemies of the public? So, you're welcome. So the question that I am asking is, what do we do? What do we do to ensure that we can fight corruption? Let me say that corruption is multifaceted. It comes from different angles, and so the solution must also be the same. We cannot have just one action. If we take, then we will overcome corruption. So I'm going to give a litany of them. The first one is, let's strengthen the legal regime for fighting corruption. We have so many scattered laws about corruption. Is it possible that we can consolidate them? And when we consolidate them, is it also possible that we can put together some of the institutions? For instance, I hope you know by now that I like OSP. I think he's a fantastic young man. Can we combine Office of the OSP and YOCO as one institution so that we give that mandate to the office? Because YOCO has offices all across the country already. If you want to build regional offices for OSP and district offices, do you know how much we are talking about? It's a lot of money. So why don't we look at bringing institutions together? I've been looking at the size of Ghana Education Service versus the Ministry of Education. I say, can't we bring these two institutions together? Ministry of Health and Ghana Health Service. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. So can't we have one of them? In some countries, they have what they call Ministry of Public Service. So there are services under it, and that is all. So you don't have a ministry in charge of health, ministry in charge of education, etc., and you have a big service also down there. These are all unnecessary load on the consolidated fund of the country. So you have to look at it, especially how to prosecute corruption and corruption-related cases, because it's difficult and corruption doesn't happen in the opening and they don't leave traces of their actions. So we must make it easy that once a prima facie case has been established, then the onus should move to the accused person, as it is in Section 1, Subsection 3 of the Anti-Money Laundering Act, which says if you are being investigated for money laundering and you have some property or asset with you, which cannot be attributed to your income or you cannot justify where you get it from, then you are guilty of money laundering. Instead of the prosecution proving beyond doubt, what the prosecution has to prove in court is that Daniel has 5 houses and his salary is 2,000 per month. We ask him, Daniel, did you get some lotto somewhere? He said, no. Do you inherit something from somewhere? He said, no. Is there any other source that we don't know? He said he doesn't have. He's a magician. That's why we think he's involved in money laundering. I think if we go that way or that route, it will help us than where we are now, because the corrupt are very powerful, mind you. Anybody who has benefited from corruption is usually rich. They buy not only the best lawyers, they buy the judges as well. What I don't know is if they buy the prisons. Now, somebody was telling me a story in another country, not Ghana, where he said that they buy the prisons. You may hear he has been sentenced to prison for 2 years or 5 years. From there, he goes home. And he goes and mark register at the prison every morning to show that he is around. Meanwhile, he's in his house. And I say, wow, Africa is a great continent. One of the things that I think we must do and do very well is to take public financial management seriously. Ensure that public financial management is efficient and effective, and public resources are used for the intended purposes, and there is value for money. If we do that, there are 4 outcomes we will get as a country. And if you want to get what I'm talking about, you can refer to PIFA, their website. They will show you the outcomes of good financial management. The first one is aggregate fiscal discipline, where, in simple terms, we cut the cloth according to the material available, not because of our big size. It is the material available, more or less, we will be fiscally responsible, live within our means. We don't borrow recklessly, such that generations yet unborn are indebted. So fiscal discipline is one. The number 2 is strategic allocation of resources. Are your resources in Ghana being allocated strategically? If yes, then God help us. It includes that expensive hole or pit near to this place. That is the strategic allocation of resources. When our hospitals don't have medicine or medical supplies, where our schools, I think you have seen a video where a group of students were trying to share a meat which is about the size of this, something like this, and they were struggling to cut a portion for each of them. And I was like, don't you just allow one person to chew it so that next time the other one also chew the meat? Because I don't know what we are going to get out of that. And in the midst of that, this is how we are allocating resources. And in my view, even contrary to the provisions of the Constitution, because it didn't follow the right procedure of allocating public funds. Then the third thing which will come, if we do financial management well, is efficiency in service delivery. We will go to hospitals and we will be full of smiles. We go to our schools and we'll be happy that our children are being taught in a decent environment. I hope you know that today and age, children are still studying under trees. Some are lucky not to be under trees. They have buildings which will collapse on them anytime. So we will have efficiency in service delivery. But the fourth one, which is the most important thing, corruption will be 0 or near to 0. You can't say I'm managing funds well, but people are stealing the money. What kind of accountant is that? They say, oh, we are in charge, we are managing the funds of this company or this organization very well, but they have stolen a greater portion of it. No, that cannot be the case. So efficient public financial management, I think, is very important. Another factor which is causing this problem, or we need to address, so to reduce the level of corruption, is the issue of meritocracy in appointment. We are very fond of putting square pegs in round holes. Then we turn out and ask, why is it not working? Is that not the case? But what beats my mind about Ghanaian politicians is the fact that immediately they are appointed into office or they assume political office, they think the rest of us are idiots. They speak as if they are speaking to some animals in the farm. They don't speak to us, giving us any credit. And some of them, I listened and I said, why don't you just give a little bit of respect to the people? Especially there are people who are subject matter experts. They know that subject far better than you. It's only because you're a minister. But you can't challenge them on that issue. But just because you are maybe a president or a vice president, they allow you to talk. It doesn't mean that the rest of the people, we've lost our minds. So next year, some of you may get political positions. Please give us a little bit of respect. Respect us a bit. Just a bit, I'm talking, not plenty. Just give us a little bit of respect. Another thing which I think if we do and do well can help us, which is also actually entrenched in our constitution, is assets and liabilities declaration by public officers. Article 286 provides that the president, the vice, the ministers, speaker, chief justice, etc., before they take office, they should declare their assets and liabilities to the Auditor General. And when I was in office as Auditor General, I got to know that these guys, they don't declare, or they didn't declare their assets and liabilities. And you know, there are people who are very guilty about this most. The judges, those who apply the law. And I don't know who leaked it to them. So we were doing an exercise to determine how many judges had gone foul to it and hit them. And the issue was all over. I said, who leaked this? You won't believe it. One particular morning, the number of judges who were in audit service to declare their assets and liabilities, I was like, what happened? I said, guys, you have leaked the audit. I said, from my point of view, and I am normally not kind to church when it comes to this. This is my point of view again. If the Constitution says, before you enter this room, wash your hands or fingers, and you enter with that washing, are you not here wrongly? So the Constitution didn't say that after taking office. It said before taking office, declare your assets and liabilities. And 6 months, 2 years, 3 years down the line, they have not. So I was like, Commissioner of Church, why don't you just remove them from the office so that they go and challenge you in the court? They will win anyway because, like I said earlier on, the judges were themselves guilty of it from Supreme Court down, all of them. Most of them, actually not all of them, most of them, they were all guilty of it. But if we declare assets and liabilities well, not by filling the form and giving it to Auditor General, but publishing it for us to know what you had before coming to office. And the Constitution says after 4 years, which means the end of a term, isn't it? You declare again, it will give us an idea about what it says under Clause 4 of 286, that if we find assets that cannot be attributed to your income, then you have acquired it unconstitutionally. If Auditor General alone is the one who is supposed to know the assets you have, is he God? How? Chief, I've never seen you before. So if you come with your appointment letter and say you are a minister, and you have one vehicle, I just take your word. That is all. You declare it, I put it down. But if it is published, I'm very sure the people who know how many vehicles you have will say, this guy is deceiving us. Somebody may even find a way of entering his yard and take a picture of the vehicles that are there. So it's to hold people accountable. So if you gather that information and conceal it in an envelope with the Auditor General, where's the accountability here? And again, I think that law must provide for verifying. If we don't verify, we are cheating ourselves again. Because when Daniel is appointed as a minister for maybe whatever, mosquitoes, it will be in my plan that yes, I have a piece of land. By the term of my office, I'll put there a 5-bedroom house. So I can declare it, what we call anticipatory declaration. That I have 5-bedroom house, whilst I don't have. So if at the end of my term of office, I am accused of having a 5-bedroom, I say, look, bring my asset declaration. I told you I was going to steal and buy 5, and I've done that. So I have done it. So the need to verify must also be there. Interestingly, if you look at the PNDC law, which was passed in 1992 on asset declaration by civil servants and political officers, it required all these 2 things, that the Auditor General should publish and verify. But the same year, we promulgated a constitution and took it away, lowered the bar. So I think it is necessary we look at assets and liabilities declaration carefully. And closely related or linked to the assets and liabilities declaration is lifestyle audit. We must do lifestyle audit. Why am I saying so? Immediately we say that public officers must declare their assets and liabilities publicly. They are going to hide them with family and friends. Say, I'll put your name there. You too, I'll put your name there. So you may find a 15, 20-year-old who owns a mansion and he has never worked before. But if there is lifestyle audit, you are going to call and say, Madam, we hear that you own all these things. Can you give us what you do? What are your sources of income? And that will tell you that, no, you can't own these things. So somebody is hiding these things in your name. And that will help us. This is nothing new to only to the world. It's only Ghana that we don't want to do it. But lifestyle audit, if not for anything at all, it will help revenue generation. Because if we don't find anything wrong with you at all, as far as where you got the money from or earn all those things from, at least have you paid tax or taxes on it? So that if you pay the tax, we can dig another expensive pit or hole in addition to this one that we have already done. So I think that is a very important thing, audit. Closely related to that is what I think my brother Wilson and myself will agree, that we need to commercialize the fight against corruption. I don't think the fight against corruption is good enough in the hands of only government. Because government may even be complicit in the corruption. So how are they going to, people have been talking about office of the, Attorney General and Minister of Justice. And I said, look, it is a very simple thing. If you understand how government works, you know that the Minister of Justice is a cabinet minister. He's sitting there when they were taking the decision. And many times, being the legal person, they even listen to him. He will have even advised. Then when things go wrong, you want him to go and prosecute. The guy will ask, are you not the one who said, I can do it that way? And I always cite an example with this, people who don't believe me. You remember the case between myself and Osafo Mafo and Crow and Associates, where I disallowed and set charge Osafo Mafo. The witness to that contract was Gloria Akufu, the then Attorney General. She was the witness to the contract. Why would she prosecute? I hope you get me. And if you look at the chronology of events, payment was done, and the auditors were asking, where is evidence of work done? Which they didn't get, but forget about it. Let's assume that they even did some work. Payments were done, and the question is, where is the contract? So if you see the payment voucher, it predates the contract. In fact, the contract was signed when the audit observation was raised. Then they went and signed a contract. Then the auditors took the contract and said, oh, okay, so now you have a contract. This is a single source procurement. So where's approval? Then they went to PPA and got approval. So they are applying reverse GA. Because you have to first get approval and enter into contract. The work is done, then you pay. I hope you understand me. But in this case, it was reverse GS. So it is necessary that we don't leave the fight with only government or with only Attorney General and now OSP. They should allow, just as we have people going through the process to be registered, to do audit, public sector audit. They should allow people to be registered, individuals or firms who can go to court. I'm not talking about everybody. You must have the legal practicing license and be a member of the bar. You should be able to say, I'll investigate this case and do the prosecution. And when you are able to retrieve the money for the state, we share you and give you a good share of it, because we're going to lose it anyway. I think if that is done, many of the youngsters, accountants, newly trained accountants and lawyers, you can easily come together and say, let's form a firm. Immediately the Auditor General's report is out. You pick it and you hit the road running. You investigate and go and prosecute. So I believe in that suggestion that we should try and commercialize the fight against corruption. And of course, I already hinted on the need to support the anti-corruption agencies and let them do their work, especially separating the Attorney General's office from that of the Minister of Justice. Because if you remember, in Occupy Ghana versus Attorney General, I don't know whether you know about that case, Occupy Ghana versus Attorney General. Do you know that case? Occupy Ghana went to court against the Auditor General. But you see, you can't see the Auditor General. So any offense of government, it goes to Attorney General. So it was Occupy Ghana versus Attorney General. But they put into bracket Auditor General's case. So Attorney General was representing the Auditor General. That case was, I think, 2014 that it started or thereabout. I was not in Ghana. But unfortunately for me, I think 4 months into my administration, the Supreme Court came out with a decision to say that the Auditor General, by the Constitution, is required that anytime he does an audit and he finds any item contrary to law, he must disallow and set charge. And when the judgment came, I celebrated it. And some friends of mine asked me why. I said, oh, if they had lost, I would have appealed on their behalf. Because I think my reading of the Constitution, that is the position. That case, if you listened or if you read the consequential orders after the judgment, the Supreme Court gave consequential orders. The fourth one went to the Attorney General to say when Auditor General has done what we have told him, take the case and prosecute. I don't know if it is today that that is going to happen. So to provoke the Attorney General, when I was in office, I once wrote to the Attorney General to say, according to, I think, Section 27 of the Public Financial Management Act, you were supposed to write an annual report showing how you are pursuing cases in the Auditor General's report to Parliament and copy the Auditor General. But you have forgotten to be giving me my copy. So can I get a copy of the status update? I think maybe it's today that they will respond to it. It was ignored with all the impunity that it required. So I didn't get the response before leaving office. But then I would like to talk about that will help us to fight corruption is leadership. Leadership is everything. Leadership is the cause. The rest are what? The effects. If you have a good leader, good results. Bad leader, bad results. So we need to look for leadership that is ethical and transformational. As we are in an election year, I would like to appeal to Ghanaians. Look at the person who said, give me the mandate. Well, I said mandate. If you define mandate as tier, that is your business. And ask yourself, is this guy an honest, transparent, and ethical person. If he is not, he will look into your face and say that if I tell you that your head is like this, and you would say it is not a correct thing, that's a warped logic. Let's be sure that they don't take us for granted. And in looking for ethical and transformational leaders, I would like to sum it up. Let's look for what we call father in the person. Father, not as in giving birth to children, but as an acronym. And for the F, somebody who is fair, a leader who ensures fairness, who sees meritocracy as the reason for awarding positions, giving contracts, and things that happen in the public service. It is very necessary to have someone like that instead of somebody who is driven by partisan, tribal, and other considerations. The A in father stands for accountability. Let's look for a leader who will show resource for the resources that we have given to him and hold himself and his followers accountable. The unfortunate situation we have in Ghana today is the only time we can actually hold people accountable is when they are out of office. No. Charity, they say, begins at home. Is that not it? So hold your own people accountable. Then you can move on to the other ones and there will be no problem. So we need a leader who is accountable to the people, not the one who gives excuses. We need a leader who is trustworthy. That is the T in the father. A leader who is trustworthy or transformational. That is a leader who is visionary. He has the vision. He can look at you and tell you that your future is okay. We can look at the guy and say, this guy is full of vision and not only talking, but he has the track record to back it. So say he has done it before, and so we can trust him. That's where trust comes from. I am very sure if I should call any of you now and say that, oh, I hear you are suffering from maybe stomach ache, and when we finish, I'll go to the theater and operate you. You run for your life, isn't it? Because you know I've never done it before. I'm going to kill you. But if I assure you that I'll audit your books, I'm sure you will agree. So look for someone who can deliver and has the vision. A trustworthy person, not just people who talk. The talking has become too much in our leadership drive. We must back it with what? Thank you. You have answered me correctly. We need action. Then the H in father is honesty. A good leader is honest. He said, guys, as for here, we have failed. We are sorry. This is what we are doing to solve the problem. Not even when they are failing, they want you to praise them for their failure. What government is doing today is gaslighting. I hope you understand gaslighting people. You must be grateful for the way we are maltreating you. You see, you are not grateful enough. We need a leader who must be honest to say, sorry, here we didn't go right. Nobody expects a perfect leader in Ghana. Are you expecting a perfect leader? You will never get. They are human beings. So when something goes wrong, we say, sorry. Yeah, it didn't go well. But in our case, they will even tell you, look, what I normally refer to as negative benchmarking. You tell the guy, don't beat your wife. Say, hey, my colleague has killed the wife. So mine is even better. I'm only beating her. She won't die. Negative benchmarking. So we must get honesty to be a virtue in our leadership drive. Let's look at the guy and see how many times was he or were they honest with us. Then the E in father stands for equity, where we make sure that everybody has his share of the cake. True, being a government official, being a big man, maybe you deserve a Land Cruiser. Even this, at times, some have proved that it is not necessary. Have you seen the leader in Burkina Faso? He's in pickup. Up to today. Yes. Ghana, District Chief Executive, V8. And Coordinating Director, V8. Regional, V8. Everybody, V8. I'm told even the 8. So we may have to look at it and see where's the equity. When you are driving that one with our petrol going, what about the others? How are they moving around? I hear there's a threat of strike or whatever, or increases in fuel prices, and people say they're also going to increase their fares and etc. So there must be equity. There is a statement that in public financial management, it storms at the top and drizzles at the bottom. I say no. In Africa, you won't see any drizzling at the bottom. You will see the storm. But when you go down there, wallahi, there's nothing there. No drop. It doesn't drizzle in Africa. Once it storms, it remains there. I think it evaporates. Thank you. From the top, it evaporates. People don't need much. At times, they need just something little. Let's take care of them. So that is very important. If you are a leader, you must make sure that you are equitable. You don't take everything for yourself. The last one in Father, which is very dear to my heart, the R, is respect. A good leader respects not only the other people, but their views and contrary views. The fact that you are a leader does not mean we should all think like you. I hope you are with me. And let me be honest with you. At times, the best solution comes from the guy down there. And I used to do that a lot when I was in office as Auditor General. Whenever there was an issue, I always had my position or what I wanted to do. But I'll call the management. When I finish, I say, let's go down to middle level management. When we finish it, let's go down, pick sample of people who are on the field to get their perspective. And at times it's very interesting. You see that when you get down there, their perspective make complete nonsense of what you were thinking at the top. Because you see how different angles give different perspectives. If you're on the mountain and you're looking down, I think it's not the same as if you are in the valley and you are looking up. So I used to tell my people, let's go down there and find out. At times we get down there and they punch holes, big holes, into what we thought is watertight. He said, Chief, you don't know. Is that what you want to try? Don't try it. So a good leader respects contrary opinions and divergent opinions. But in our environment, who are you to disagree? You must accept what has been said. So let's get leaders who believe in being a father. I hope you remember my father, what it stands for. The F is for fairness. The A is accountability. T is trustworthy or transformational. H is honest or honesty. The E is equity. Then the R is what? Respect. We respect other people. In fact, in Ghana, some leaders speak and you say, why would we talk to people like this? And you see, they forget that power is transcendent. They forget that, yes, you are up there, but you come down. I used to tell a joke to my people when I was in office as Auditor General. I used to go down with my drivers and everybody. I go to sit in their offices to find out things and say, why are you associating with them? I say, because when I leave office, I'll be with them. So I want to learn how to live with them now. Otherwise, you'll be so demoralized that if you don't take time, you are going to your grave. Because you think you are so big that people cannot come to you. Before you realize, nobody even calls you anymore. In fact, you call them and they say, we will call you back. You and you realize that these guys are itching to hear your voice. You don't call and they say, can I call you back? Power has changed. So it is good we respect other people. To conclude, I must urge Ghanaians that we need to take on the fight against corruption head on and hold the bull by the horns, not the tail. In Ghana, we are holding bulls by their tail. We go and look for people who have stolen some 200 or misappropriated 500, or a banana seller who could not do so and so, and throw him or her to jail. And the actual thief, in fact, is there any policeman here? Do you know that the actual thief are the people you are protecting? The actual thief, we hail him. I used to have a parish priest, a very radical Englishman. He said in Ghana, big man takes, he takes. Small man takes, he thieves. If you're a big man, you take. But small man, you thief. So let's try and ensure that we hold the bulls by the horns. I, for one, I wish that at the end of every audit cycle, we get the top brass who are involved in corruption. And that is where we will be serious about winning the war against corruption. I would also like to say that we need to wake up as people and determine what we want from our leaders. There is this Akan saying which says, when the fool becomes wise, the game is game over. Let's give them game over. When he comes and says, this, say, wait a minute, don't go. What you have said just now, how are you going to do it? Where's the sources of income? How do we measure you? What are your key performance indicators? And if you fail, what should we do to you? Let people not just take us for granted. And anyway, I admire politicians, to be honest with you. I admire them. Because you go and lie once, you come back, and you lie to them again. And you know that people know that you lied. And then you come and you lie again. You say, these guys, how are their brains wired? They keep doing the same thing. You promised, you didn't fulfill it. It's very nice to be a politician. But the most important thing is that the youth stand up. You are not showing commitment enough. It is your future which is being destroyed today. And Professor Soyinka of Nigeria, he has something very nice to say. That it's only in Africa where thieves regroup to loot again, and the youth whose future is being stolen are clearly celebrating. It's only in Africa. Those whose future is being stolen are celebrating. Hey, that's our mentor. So let's be angry enough. I would also like to draw attention to what Huen Sin also said about us. According to Huen Sin, he says, civil disobedience is not our problem. He said, our problem is civil obedience. Our problem is that people all over the world have obeyed the dictates of leaders. 1 million have been killed because of their obedience. Not disobedience, they obey to death. Our problem is that people are obedient all over the world in the face of poverty and starvation and stupidity and war. And the quality of our problem is that people are obedient whilst the jails are full of petty thieves. The grand thieves are running the country. The petty thieves are in jail. The grand thieves are the ones what? Running the country. He said, that is our problem. I have urged you at least 3 times already that the youth of Ghana and Ghanaians, you should be annoyed enough or angry enough. And I'll repeat it again. But I would like to urge you that in your anger, let's be civil in the approach. Let's not be destructive. If you burn down the Parliament House, you have to be taxed to build it again. I hope you know that. So it's like cutting your nose to spite your face. If you say you are going to burn the Jubilee House, burn it. It must be reconstructed with your money. You have to pay for it. So in our anger, let's remember and keep our brains in our head. Let's not take the brains off. I saw a clip which came from Kenya. Somebody was chasing the road. I said, what has the road done to you? If you have a problem with President Ruto, you want the road also to go with him? He said that he is the one who constructed the road. I said, oh my goodness. Yes. You know, he said he's annoying. They asked him why the road. He said he constructed this road. So please, I'm urging you that anytime you want to take action, yes, you can go on your strikes. You can go on your demonstration. Use all those methods that the law provides for you. Use them. But let's not be violent. And let's reserve the maximum effort that we have when it is time to re-elect them. Then you show them that you are the one who decides. You can't continuously take me for granted. But as for going violent, please, let's not do that. It will not help us. Some have been calling for it. And even some of the younger ones say we need the military to take over. Hey, were you there? I don't know if you are of my age and you saw what happened. Those days when you see a soldier man, you are guilty until you leave his presence. Because he can accuse you of anything. He say, why is it that you are wearing shoe without socks? And that is all. For anything. They can just look at you and say, look, your hair is not bushy enough. Why are you keeping this type? Are you part of the military? You receive some slaps before you realize. I remember as a student, I went out to buy something for my elder sister, and I met a soldier man. He asked me, where am I going? I said, oh, my sister sent me to go and buy some things for her hair. He said, oh, okay. Then I'm also sending you. Join the truck. We are going to Nteso. You know Nteso, after Kotafo, we are going to Nteso to go and evacuate cocoa. So my sister sent me about 7 a.m. 7 p.m. he has not seen me. She was roaming in Priceville Township. I was at Priceville that time. He was roaming looking for me, and we were at Nteso. Carrying cocoa. So around 10 o'clock, I came back and said, oh, you are back. What happened? I said, the army. My people, don't call for it. In a way, they said, people say it should happen and let's see. But some things, when they happen, you can't even look at it. So don't call for the army. Their job is there. It's cut out for them. Let them remain in the barracks and protect us when people are attacking us. But if you unleash them on us, I have a brigadier friend. He said, we are not trained to do the things you are expecting. Ours is to suppress you and make sure that you keep quiet once and for all. So please, let's not call for that. We fortunately have an opportunity at least every 4 years to decide. Let us use civil means to ensure that we hold our leadership accountable. And on that note, I would like to say God bless you, God bless Ghana, and thank you very much.